War II, black Angelenos answered America's call to arms, but they were only allowed to fight in segregated regiments. On the home front, jobs in the booming defense industry called a third wave of migrants west.
It wasn't a good time, globally we're fighting a terrible war, but it was good times in terms of the employment that could be had. You still had folks coming because they felt they were going to be employed in these wartime industries, and they were not. There were the usual arguments being made that how could you expect us to fight Hitler and you're engaging in the same kinds of discriminatory and racist practices that he's advocating. April of Randolph, who was the head of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, warned President Roosevelt in 1941 that unless something was done to counter the kinds of discrimination that was going on against black people in businesses that were doing work for the government, he would organize a march on Washington.
So in June of 1941, President Roosevelt responded by signing Executive Order 8802, integrating government defense contractors.
They were able to work in the shipyards, in tire factories, in foundries, and they worked very hard and diligently to contribute to the war effort.
Labor unions resisted integration and instead insisted on all-black auxiliary arms. Meanwhile, restrictive housing covenants severely limited where black people could live. So newly arrived blacks had little choice but to move into hastily constructed government projects or rely on the kindness of friends.
A lot of us lived in one house. The owner of the house rented all of her bedrooms, and she slept in the dining room. This was during the war.
Even through wartime turmoil, black people reached out to their Japanese-American neighbors.
I joined church at a very young age, and in 1942, our congregation, which was Baptist, maintained the Japanese church, which was Buddhist. Our church was on 36th in Normandy, and the Japanese church was at 35th. So we maintained the church while the Japanese were away at camp.
Keeping blacks in one neighborhood out of restricted white housing proved more difficult than most white citizens groups anticipated.
Black folks used innovative ways to get around them. They would convince the homeowners who may have been a party to a restrictive covenant to disregard the covenant and sell the home and then get out while the getting's good.
Near the end of the war, there was a marked resurgence of political protest activity. Returning servicemen refused to sit still, quietly watching as their civil rights disappeared. Protests were launched on the street and in the courtroom. White and black people stood together, relentlessly pushing for an end to racial segregation. Physical attacks on black people increased, but NAACP lawyers continued to fight. Black people united and did whatever they could, but life wasn't always easy. While cases slowly progressed through the courts, people made the best of their lives. The legal end to restrictive covenants finally came in 1948, when the Supreme Court ruled that restrictive covenants were not legally enforceable. Since we all know that prejudice has not gone away, you may ask how these forerunners have helped us in our daily struggles. We'll discuss that next when City View continues.
Currently, the Los Angeles Division number 451 has employed many engineers in order to develop a solar energy project. And this solar project is to be launched in July of this year, in 1992, in Ghana, West Africa. We're taking in the self-determining and self-reliance attitudes that was
taught. And the church tells them that when Los Angeles were founded by 46 Los Angelinos, 42 of them were African Americans and Native Americans, then we can't go around placing graffiti on every building. We can't go by spray shooting at campuses. When you know whose you are, then you know who you are. And whose are we? We're God's. We're children of God.
He said, never desert the high road of what is right for the swampland of expediency, because no one ever got lost traveling on a straight road.
If you think the same as I do, then there's no disruption and no fight. I like to fight, and I'm as brave as a rooster, a game rooster, ready for a fight if he sees one coming. I'd rather be a corpse than a coward, and I don't want to be carried to victory on flowery beds of ease either. I I like to go through bloody scenes. The papers can say what they want as far as I'm concerned. When I'm in a fight, any byplay doesn't faze me. Mrs. Mary Pleasant.
As the late Alex Haley once said, you can never enslave someone who knows who he is. What is passed down to us through the heroic struggles of the Pobladores, Biddy Mason, Mary Ellen Pleasant, Frederick Madison Roberts, Colonel Allensworth, and countless others is not only a gift to African Americans, but to each and every one of us who calls California home. I'm Mark Brown. Thank you for watching City View.
Knock, 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 knock. They looked around and what did they see? Snow-white angels, colored angels, sons of David and Chinese. You don't have to look swell, not for this hotel. You can even check in your dungarees. You're welcome, welcome. There are no restricted signs in heaven. There's no selected clientele. There are no restricted signs in heaven. Brother, brother, that goes double. Hallelujah. Knock, 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 knock. You're welcome, welcome. There are no restricted signs in heaven. There's no selected clientele. There are no restricted signs in heaven. Brother, brother, that goes double. Hallelujah. Oh, knock, 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 knock. He said, now won't you follow me? Oh, knock, knock.